students, and I have to show fake students to have this. So see, I have 4 little students in my course. So individual assigning, what does this mean? This means that, let's say you have an honor student or a DSPS student, or just somebody that you want to give them extra or whatever. Now you can do that. Also great for makeup exams or makeup quizzes. You can now assign it just to that individual student or group of students. Instead of the entire class. You can also use this individual assigning tool in conjunction with the new testing and assignment builder to actually even create some alternatives and have your classes have, half of them take a test A and the other one take a test B. So they're really awesome. You can use this as much as you want, and any other fun ideas and new ideas you can think of, please share, because I love everyone's ideas about all these new features. So we'll go to individual assigning. When you're creating the course, it's already, I'm just going to go in here so you can see, sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. You can see that, I'm going to edit the course, that it's already been selected for you. So under content, allow individual assigning is pre-selected for you as an instructor. And so that's great. You don't have to worry about like, did I assign that or not? Or did I click that or not? I don't know why anyone wouldn't do that. That's why we made it
like an automatic.
Default, right, a default. So, okay. So now what happens with activities, and we're going to assign, as you can see, I've done a lot of these trainings. You may have been to a couple other ones. Unfortunately, Cerritos does not use Vistas, maybe one day. But what we do then is I'm going to, say I'm going to assign all of this, and I go to assign selected like normal. But now instead of the, I have this option, assign to, and I can do entire section or individual students. So if I do entire section, it just goes out to everyone. If I do individual student, select that, then we have the option to save and assign now or save. I am going to save and assign now so you see what happens. So let's say that you're specifically assigning like escritura or something more for like an honor student, or maybe it's a heritage speaker that kind of like slipped into your intro Spanish class, but you still want to make it, more advanced for them. You would then click save and assign now, and then your roster, and here's my roster with my 4 students, would show up, and you would just hit select on whoever you want to assign. If you do decide like, oh, you know what, after all, I do want to assign this to everyone, you could select the entire column, like if this is a special group of students, or you can assign to the entire section anyway. So there's like, now you click on it and it gives you the different options. So I can say I'm just going to assign these and these. And then now you see what you've assigned. And if you want to see what you've assigned to everybody else, we can up here, we can toggle this over here. Oh, I have to save changes. Don't forget to save changes. Now I see everything that's assigned for my entire class, but I also see what I've only assigned to Kim and Krishna and what I only assigned to Shauna. So it keeps track. You can see the differences. I mean, obviously I've been playing around with this with all my trainings, and then you always save changes. And then the other cool feature about this is kind of like an inadvertent feature, is you can now export this, and you will get a spreadsheet that's going to have all of your assignments, so you kind of know like what you assigned to other people. You might want to use this, I don't know, some people might want to use it and then like pass it on to a friend and be like, hey, this is what I assigned, but you can always just like download this too, so that's kind of fun. It's not what you want to see. All right. All right, so then here we go. Again, we are now in this new kind of, I was in content activities, right? That's where we were assigning things like normal. And as you can see here, if it varies, if you assigned it to an individual student, it's going to have a little student, kind of like a little figurine. If we click on that, it says individually assigned. So I assigned this particular Conversación partner chat to a specific student. If I would have assigned it to the entire section, it would just give the due date and it wouldn't have that little icon. So that's one of the things. And then how do you get to individual assigning in general? You can also go up to calendar. Now underneath calendar, it says individual assigning. It used to just say assignment calendar or start assigning, but now it sends you, if you click on here, you get onto this page where we were. And this is where I can, check to see and maybe decide after all that I want to assign this, to the whole class, and I want to deselect this, but I want to do this instead. So this is where you can come and make changes if you want for whatever reason. And then just make sure to always hit save changes. So it's super fun. That's individual assigning. I mean, there really isn't much more to it than that. Like, it's just that easy and hopefully intuitive. And again, this could be used for like honor students. This can be used for heritage speakers or any student that wants maybe like some extra credit or is trying to make something up, or just any extra, or any of your students with accessibilities, you want to, maybe not assign a specific activity that we know isn't accessible to that student, but you want to give them something else that is. So it's a really great tool for you to use for all, and have fun with it and see, how you want to use it. And another great way to do it is with the new assessment builder. So any other questions on individually assigning before I move on to the assessment builder?
And the grading will be you want to do extra credit?
So that extra credit we don't really have a column. You would have to assign it to a particular category. So if you want to assign it to homework, then those students would just get the extra points. So then it would increase their percentage or their points because they're doing more. So make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the gradebook figures that all out for you. So you don't have to worry about it as long as you put it in the right category. All right. Awesome. Veronica, anything exciting?
No, I think I'm excited for the assessment builder too. I think this is nice if we have sometimes we get our chicos that INSEAD like a Spanish 1 or like in the honors 9 and 10, you can really like add more work without creating more work for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. All right, now we're going to get to the fun stuff, which is the assessments that got a huge upgrade. One thing was upgraded back in March, and then the rest of it was upgraded at the end of July. So I'm going to go, I already have some assigning, so we're going to do Las Celebraciones. I've never actually done anything out of this book or out of this chapter. Okay, so now as you can see, the mini pruebas are here. None of that has changed. If you love, mini prueba A 9.1, that's your favorite on the planet, you could still use it and all good. You can use it and assign it the same way. None of that has changed. But if you want to now create a brand new activity, you can. And here's where the excitement starts. So we click on create new and go to assessment. And now you can see that new assessment, you can name it whatever you want. So we can call it midterm A. Again, this is where I was talking about that you can create different versions of a test and then use that individual assigning to assign different versions to your students to kind of curb on cheating a little bit more. So now I can call it midterm A, but I don't want my students to know that they're taking the A, right? I just want them to know they're taking the midterm. So I can go here and edit and see where it says student C's. So basically, I just want them to know midterm. So they're only going to see midterm. I'm going to know I'm assigning them midterm A, but they're only going to see midterm. And then I'm deciding I can change to the location. I pulled this up in grammar quizzes, but I actually want it in the lesson tests of lesson 9. So I can move it around, or, I can move it to lesson 10 because that's where I'm actually assigning the midterm. You can move it around wherever you want. So we're going to hit 7 or save. Sorry about that. It's late in the afternoon. I need more coffee. All right. And this is where the fun starts. So Up at the top, now you see we have new content, existing content, and question banks. So I'm going to go to existing content first. These are all of the quizzes and everything that you love and are in here. Remember how I said, if you love Gramática 9.1 Mini Prueba A and that's your favorite, you can select anything you want. But let's say like you only really liked these three and you didn't like that last one. So now you can just import those three. And then you've always wanted to assign Mini Prueba B, but it has the dreaded instructor graded and you don't want that. So you really just loved, this question. Now you can import it and now you have created your own quiz or exam. And here's another thing. I'm pulling questions from a quiz and not just the lesson test for my midterm. So I can also go back here because this is a midterm and say, oh, you know what? I need to pull some stuff from lesson 8 and I'm going to go to the vocabulary quizzes and I'm going to pull this from lesson 8 because this is a midterm and I'm going to click import. Did you see how easy that was? So now we can grab whatever you want. If it's a final, you can go all the way back to, lesson 1 and add something from lesson 1 into your final. Or even just like add something from lesson 1 in a midterm in Spanish 2 or Spanish 3, whatever you want. You can just basically mix and match existing content that we already have. And it just gets added to the bottom. So if I were to click here, and say, I really love this escuchar. I really want that. I'm going to select that, hit import. And every time I import a question, it always goes to the bottom. But let's say I really want this escuchar to be at the top. So all the same functionality that I can move this up will still work. So I can just keep clicking the up arrow and move the escuchar up all the way up to the top. It will renumber it for me. See how we're not number 4, and then now we're number 3, number 2, and then I can click it all the way up to number 1. So I can move this around. I can also edit these like we used to be able to. You can actually edit them a little bit more, and I'll show you in a minute what I mean by that. But basically, these are existing content, and we just add it. And if you decide, oh, you know what, I don't want this, you can just delete it at any time. Now, the other fun part that this got added in the end of July is the question bank. These are 5,000 brand new questions that were created, and our editors feverishly created all spring long for you. This is for intro Spanish only. All of these changes that I'm talking about are across all of our books. So for Portales, for Vistas, for Panorama, for Enfoques, all of that has these options, except for the question banks. The question banks are only for intro Spanish. So the question bank is going to be in Portales, in Vistas, in Panorama, and Adelante, but not in any of the other programs. Those are coming. Obviously, just intro Spanish was done first. So now with these question banks, the great part about these is, again, you can use this to create like an individual, really custom exam. So I'm going to filter, and we were in lesson 9. And you're going to see here, there's preparación, and then there's a completar, escribir, and elegir or indicar for all of the grammar. I will tell you that the escribir sections are instructor graded. Everything else is auto graded. So let's say I want to select this completar. So I open this up, and here I see the question, complete extensions with the correct preterite. Now, there are 30 parts to this question. Obviously, you're not going to assign the entire thing, right? I mean, you might, but I probably wouldn't. So this is where you can customize and say, for exam A, I'm going to do the first 5. And then you can come back and, make yourself a note and say, for exam B, I'm going to select, 6 through 10. So this is what's really great. You can select whichever you want and then hit import. And again, those follow at the bottom. This is where it was. And then you can also edit these. So if you even want to like change them up a bit, or if you know you're going to make a makeup exam for your students that are going to retake the exam, you don't want to give them the same thing, you can edit these and kind of, you know, change maybe the gender on it so that the answer is now feminine instead of masculine. You know, you can change things everywhere. Like you can write ella conoció a mi familia. Something like that. You can just change things around. We're going to hit save section. So those are the question banks, and you can grab them from anywhere. So the completar sections are fill in the blank, elegir, they're multiple choice, and then obviously the escribir is going to be a writing. And then we also have indicar, which are the lógico or ilógico questions. And you can select as many of them as you want and move them over, or as little of them as you want. And these are all brand new questions for fall. So students have not seen this. They're not at any sort of, you know, answer key. They don't have the answers to these. So everyone excited about that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, awesome.
So, sorry,
Every-
so can you show one more time and then we can take questions? So can you show how we got to the question bank and then how we got to just sort of like the existing content to like mix it up if you want, just one more time.
Sure. So when I select a new new assessment, that's where I started. And I can do a brand new one, and I'll do a midterm B so you could see. So I'm gonna hit save.
Perfect.
And then hit exit. And if you were to hit exit without hitting save, we put a fail safe in there so you won't lose it. It won't get lost. It will be like, hey, you forgot to hit save. Make sure you hit save. So we got that for you guys. All right. So here I am again. I'm going to create a brand new assessment. And then this is where I can then name this one if I want. Midterm B. I'm going to leave it in this lesson test, but I just want the students for it to just say midterm for them. And then this is where up here at the top is where you can start adding sections. And we went over existing content, which if I click on that, and then I filter by lesson, and then I can either also filter it even more by like the grammar quizzes, or if I want to add vocabulary or pull something from an existing multi-lesson exam or a lesson test, you know, so because I know that these the escuchar, everybody always loves that, and they were always like, oh, I want to just have them do the escuchar section, but I don't want the rest of it. And it was always a pain. And now you can just select the escuchar, and then we hit import, and it goes there. And then then you would go back up here to the top. So this is like your menu to show you where you are. And then on the side, it tells you, it will bring up all of the problems. So if we go back to the question bank, and these are the brand new questions, then we go to the new lesson, and there's preparación, and then there's grammar. So for each, so let's say we want this comparing ser and estar. And then this is the question banks now have multiple parts to one question. So this has 15 questions within the elegir section, but obviously you probably don't want to assign all of those. So I'm going to do like the first 4 odd number and hit import. And there they are at the bottom. Okay. And we can also, once again, I can edit this. And then I can edit this to say alta. And then you can change this, to say ambas, or you can leave it as is or whatever. So you can change within here as well. You can edit. You can edit everything now, which wasn't something. Just make sure you edit the answer if you're editing the question. Just remind yourself about that. All right, so that is existing content and question banks. Now we are going to go to new content. So this is something you create. This is like you want to create your own quiz. Maybe it's something specific to your class, or some culture part that like you wanted to add that wasn't part of the program. So in the past, there only used to be true, false, free response, and multiple choice, and that was it. Now you see we have some new options, fill in the blank, drop down, multiple answer, and then there's also a composition. And the main difference between free response and a composition, I'm going to click on the composition, is that the composition gives you the editing tool where students can bold, change the font, center, and all of that. So this might be great for any sort of writing assignment, as opposed to cancel the free response, which is just write in a box, and they don't have like all the functionality to edit and, you know, make it pretty. So that's the difference between free response and a composition. All right, so I'm going to move on to how you create a fill in the blank. It's really easy. So we're going to go here and write your section. I'm just going to type in fill in the blank, but obviously you would, you know, write something longer out. The directions, fill in the blank. You can change the points if you want. You can add a reference, a text, an image, a word bank. So again, if this is like you showed a picture of something from your own travels and you want to add it in there, and then you could do a fill in the blank for that. So the way you do it is you're going to I'm going to add my text, or maybe your blank is first. So I'm going to start it as an add a text first. So add text. And this is where I'm going to start typing. I am going to do this in English just because it's easier for me. It's faster for me to do it this way. So I'm going to say hi. Okay. And then now I'm going to add this. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add an answer. So this is where the students would have to answer. So I'm going to say Krishna. I can also add an answer because there's sometimes there are two answers, like piscina and alberca, right? So I can say Krishna Gill and hit save. And then if I want to say add another text after this, so make sure your cursor is kind of behind as you build the sentence and decide what's going to be the fill in the blank. And then you would add your answer and what you're going to be giving the student. So, and then you could add the blank again, add answers, and then hit save. Pretty easy, huh? And then we're going to save it. And this is what it looks like for the students. And then they could, the correct answer, and these are auto-corrected. So you don't have to worry about going in and correcting it yourself. As long as the answer is what you added in your, when you created it. All right, so let's fill in the blank. The other new one is a drop down. So this is now when we're going to give students like a drop down menu. Select answer, drop down, worth 2 points. So I'm going to add text. One second. All right, so here is my question, and then I'm going to add the drop down menu. And then I click, so I just clicked add drop down menu, then select menu options, add an option, and I'm going to write UCLA. Add another option. Another option. And then the right answer is the one I select. So I went to the University of Michigan, and this is what the correct answer would be, and I would hit save. So if I want to continue and asking questions, everything. Okay. If I wanted to continue to build on this and have drop downs, then I would just continue that. And then when I'm done, I'm going to hit save. And now this is what it looks like for the student. Where did I go to college? And then they would select Michigan. So a drop down is where you basically give the students a selection. And instead of just doing, you know, it's kind of like a multiple choice, but it's just a different kind of multiple choice, right? All right. So the other brand new activity type that you can create brand new would be the multiple answer. So this is something where it's like select all, oops. apply, multiple answer, and we're going to say fruit. So apple, banana. We're going to put avocado, throw them off. We can add this and write celery and then hit save. And then this is what the students would see. They would, obviously they're not going to have the green check, but they would have, you know, what is fruit, or, you know, select all of these that are similar, or all of these that belong, you know, when you're on vacation, and then you can put maleta or whatever, all the different words, and then they can select. So those are the brand new changes for the new content for you to create your own activities, which are the fill in the blank, drop down, and multiple answer. And then that's part of new content. And then you can also create existing content and question banks. Does anyone have any questions? Oops. See, I was hitting exit without hitting save. So here are both of my midterm B and A. So I can then use this to individually assign to students in my course. I see there's some stuff. Okay. Looks like there are no questions. So far. Anyone else have any questions or just comments, excitement about the new features? All good? And then this hasn't changed. You would just assign it as usual. And if you want to create, you know, like you could say, oh, I loved midterm B, and I'm just going to change it a little bit. You can copy your existing one exactly the same and edit it. And then, you know, you could make this midterm C for the midterm makeup. So it's a little bit similar. And then, you know, you could just go in here and delete a couple sections and then add some new ones that you want. Again, if we go to, if you want existing content, you go here, select the lesson, select maybe existing, you know, stuff that we already have here, hit import. Super easy. So now I've changed this up. I can shuffle the questions. So I didn't, you know, this is the makeup exam. It's not two different. It's going to be the same amount of questions. It's just I've changed it a little bit. So, and then this is where I would save and then hit exit. All right.